Okay.
Wow, it's Monday, and there's already a lot of excitement. And I'm here with my two wonderful guests, Ran from Crypto Banter and CTO Larsson. How are you guys?
I'm angry.
Fantastic. Another day in paradise.
I'm angry.
CTO is fantastic, and Ran is angry. We're going to talk about some of that anger. You know, the title for today's video is crypto under attack? Obviously, it has been for a while, but really going to dig into some of the weird stuff going on out there in the cryptoverse, especially with US regulators. And at the end of the day, for people, because people get spooked very easily these days, and our job is to shine a light on what could be a danger down the line, but also try to bring about some calmness too, because people are freaking out. I know people that are just selling everything. They're going into Google and Microsoft and Tesla, and they're freaking out. They're just leaving crypto again. So let's just jump in, unless you guys want to start with any key comments. Maybe, Ran, why you were so angry right now? Or we're going to touch on that anyway in a minute.
Well, yeah, I mean, why am I so angry? Because it's now very, very, very clear to me that Gary Gensler he has an agenda. Now, I don't know why he has the agenda. There's two sides to the coin here. One side is he has this agenda because he missed FTX and he missed Voyager and he missed BlockFi and he missed Celsius and he missed all of those. And now he has egg all over his face. That's the one side of it. The other side of it means it could just be that he has an agenda to kill crypto because that makes governments lose control. Either way, what is pretty obvious now is that this is a coordinated attack. It's got multiple facets. The first facet is to cut off the banking system to crypto. The second facet of it is to destroy stablecoins. The third facet is to basically limit the amount of services that are offered to US investors to the point where it makes it very hard to be running a profitable exchange. And I mean, I think it's blatant. And it's okay if you want to do that, but don't go onto media channels and then say, oh, it's so easy. All they should have done is gone onto the website and just Kraken should have registered their services. That's garbage. It's dishonest. Your own people inside the SEC published a public dissent saying that this is garbage. It's I don't know. This makes my blood boil because we've done so much hard work to get to this point. Now you've got Gary the Clown destroying all the hard work. Sorry, I'll hand it over back to you guys.
Well, before we jump into the deep end, please, everybody, links below for Ran's channel. You're most probably already subscribed, and CTO Larsson's channel. They're both there. Great follows. Very, very well connected people. Both very different perspectives on the world, crypto, etc. But the more perspectives we have, the better armed we are to proceed in this strange game. So let's just jump in and kind of take a step back from what you were talking about, Ran. We're going to talk about the Paxos Wells Notice and what really is behind that. There are a lot of people that have been talking about PaxGold. A lot of people know that BUSD, part of it, the ETH-related chain, I think, is run through Paxos, the issuing agency, which is also apparently registered in New York, which you'd think being registered in New York would give them a pass, but maybe not. But let's talk about exactly what this means, especially in light of all the stuff that happened last week with Kraken. Basically, the SEC maybe held a gun to Kraken's head and said, hey, we're going to fine you $30 million or shut down, because they were apparently giving 4 to 21% returns based on Gary Gensler's interview last week.
No, it wasn't. We're gonna hold on to it, or you pay $30 million, or you shut down. You pay $30 million, and you permanently, the word permanently, you permanently shut down staking.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And the other thing is, when Kraken gets hit, who else is next in the box? So I'll hand it over to you first. CTO Larsson, what do you think first? Have you been tracking this story? I know you probably...
Yeah, I actually felt rattled today, I must say. I mean, I'm joking a little bit the intro here, but I did feel rattled today. I did not think they would go after Paxos. I mean, generally I try to focus on what I'm good at. I'm good with technology. I'm good with I'm mathematicians. I'm good with charts. I am not a lawyer. I do not identify with lawyers. I generally don't like lawyers. And I'm definitely not a US lawyer or even a US citizen. So, of course, I don't really understand this. I'm just observing it as an amateur from the outside. But I did not think that they would go after Paxos, who, as I can perceive, have done everything right. They were the ones who talked about bankruptcy remote from the start, which would have saved everyone from Celsius, everyone from FTX collapse. Bankruptcy remote basically means that client funds are held separately from the company. So if the company goes bankrupt, the client funds are not gone. And that has been Paxos' selling point the entire time, that they actually had the funds bankruptcy remote to protect investors. Okay, so then SEC still go after them and say that they've done wrong, and they give up and say then, okay, we're not going to issue this stablecoin anymore. All right, so if that can happen to Paxos, how is USDC different than Circle? I don't know. Maybe there is some difference. Maybe there's some lawyer who can explain it. But to someone outside, it very much looks like those are just two different US companies offering largely the same product. So if that is not kosher anymore somehow, what is then? Are we back to USDT then, which has been, no one could really figure out if they're solvent or not since I joined crypto in 2017. So how is that helping investors? How is that protecting investors? I agree with Ran here. I think it doesn't add up. It's not the real story. There's some other story here, and I don't like it. I felt a little rattled today, and it's not a good development for investors, I think.
So Ran, I'm going to take you down a slightly different direction. Humans are innovative. Humans seek out alpha. It doesn't matter where it is. Will this push everything offshore? Like US is 4% of the world population. Do we...
No, we do care about the US. The US is one of the wealthiest markets in the world. It is one of the markets with the highest GDP per capita in the world. The US is super important. You just need to say, look, if we have crypto, but we don't have China and we don't have the US, then truth is, what actually have we got? So let's start off and say that the US is really, really, really important. The US is also a democracy, and in a democracy, there should be a fair and transparent process for determining the rules of engagement. And I think what the SEC is doing here is they're doing regulation by enforcement. And by doing regulation by enforcement, I don't think that they're following the correct processes. You can see that there's an agenda that is being driven here. In the name of investor protection, there is an agenda. You spoke about between 4 and 21%, which is what Gary Gensler admitted. Where else in the US can a US investor earn between 4 and 21% for passively staking their crypto? Like, it does not exist. You want to tell me that it's investor protection, not allowing investors to invest their tokens to validate a piece of technology? Come on. That's not the case. So, I mean, there's definitely an agenda here.
But BUSD itself still exists on other platforms, still issued by...
Not really, because as CZ said, Paxos is going to allow redemptions until February 2024. What's going to happen is if you've got redemptions, but you got no new issues, mathematically, eventually you go to zero. If you get redemptions which are going to reduce the number of BUSD in circulation, and then no new issues. Now, I thought that CZ would have come out and said something like, don't worry, we have a new issuer, we have someone else. CZ's statement pretty much says we're going to let this thing die, or we're going to explore using a different currency. Now, the reason why CZ said that is because here's how it works. If you're not American, so if you're living out of the US, but you use a US dollar to participate in criminal activity. So if I'm in South Africa and I buy drugs using US dollars, did you know that the US can come for me because I used their currency in an illegal transaction? So that's how the law works. I didn't know that, but that's how the law apparently works. So it's clear that CZ knows a lot more than he's letting on. And if he's chosen to abandon the US dollar, there's a very good reason why he's chosen to abandon the US dollar. And that's what his statement said. I don't know if I'm going to quickly just share my screen and find you a statement. Oh, hold on. Let me find you a quick statement over here. So just want to quickly open your statement. It's somewhere here. Hold on a second. Let me just find it.
I'm sharing your screen.
Yeah, I've got about 1,000 tabs open. But so he says, look, he says, we are exploring others and non-US based stablecoins, which is like, I mean, that's like we tapped out. He doesn't say a lot about why this thing, and it just feels like he didn't say enough. And so, yeah, for me, bad news. What worries me now is that if we get another attack, like we've had Kraken, we've had Paxos, we could get Circle, we could maybe even get USDT in the next couple of days. And that kind of like, I don't think we're ready for another blow. So let's just hope that it.
Yeah. Can they reach USDT considering it's offshore? That's the other question. I know they would have hit them first because they've been kind of suspect for a long time about those guys.
Is it backed by US currency?
Yes, therefore they can, according to your South African case. Exactly. Well, let's talk about some other stuff related to that, because this goes down a much bigger rabbit hole. So first of all, for those who own PaxGold, that depegged and was quite volatile over the last few hours. Same with BUSD, it only lost 1 cent, which is small, but sometimes we know once things depeg, it can become a death spiral real quick. Ran at PaxGold, we know some people have pushed it in the past. I don't understand why gold should be a crypto coin, but
there's only one reason for me why gold needs to be on crypto, and that is if you want to trade gold without being KYC 24 hours a day, even on the weekends, there's really no other way to do it. You can't trade gold on traditional exchanges unless it's on a weekday in market hours. So I do think that there is some use case for it. I think it's a big use case. I do also think that anything around PaxGold, anything around Paxos that depegs, is probably a bargain, because I'm reasonably comfortable that Paxos are regulated enough to have all their assets backed 1-to-1. So they seem to be a good company backed 1-to-1, which means that if you can buy gold at 5% under the price of gold, you got a 5% arbitrage, which eventually will close or eventually will get redeemed. So like, I think it's probably, I mean, if you're an arbitrage, it's probably a good arbitrage.
Good. Any comments on that, CTO? You're muted, CTO.
Sorry. I saw a good question here from Shinobi. Brian, what about USDP? Because in Paxos statement, they did not say that they will abandon USDP. So, I mean, there could be that there's more to this than we know at this point. I mean, this has come out a couple of hours ago. So, of course, we don't know everything. Because I thought about that. Why didn't they write that they will abandon that also? But we'll have to see.
Good. There's also, I did mention this tweet, I think you just showed it as well, from CZ. Do you think, you know CZ very well, Ran, do you think he's just bowing down, which surprises you? And like you mentioned, he's probably making a plan to go to stablecoin that's euro-based or British pound-based or something? And could that help things?
I don't know. It's like, you think of stablecoins are actually a very big business. Like, there's a $17 billion market cap to BUSD. Assuming that they're investing 15 billion of the 17 billion at a 5% per annum, that's 5% on $17 billion. That's like real money. So I think it's a big knock. I think if there was any way for him to salvage it, he would have salvaged it. I also think, it feels like he gave up too easily, which could mean that he knows something we don't know.
Well, he's also been a target of U.S. regulators for quite some time. There's been a lot of FUD over the last couple of years, and there's been investigations on state-by-state basis, etc. So anyway, let's talk about some other stuff happening too. Did you hear that PayPal canceled their stablecoin plans?
Suspended. I don't know if canceled, but certainly suspended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big change. And people, people like this lady here, Elizabeth Warren, she's been, this is an interesting angle. I've been trying to kind of figure out and decode this. She's been attacking, big American banks for the longest time. But somehow what she's doing to crypto is actually giving back an opportunity to some of these big money center banks in the US, because they are all looking at these stablecoins and thinking, wow, as you mentioned, 4%, 5% of 15 billion, 60 billion, whatever is massive, massive money. I think the big money center banks want to get into stablecoins. And maybe Wall Street owns Gensler. Maybe they're positioning themselves to be able to take over this whole industry itself. Is that a silver hat, tinfoil hat idea, or possible?
I mean, we all know how Wall Street, how the US institution works. It's all around lobbying. Lobbying comes from the incumbents. The incumbents support bills financially, which will keep them in power. And I mean, you can rest assured that this is either coming from the incumbents, from the banks, or this is coming from the government saying, look, we're uncomfortable with people being able to ship around billions of dollars and millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stablecoins, US dollars, without our intervention, permission, involvement, etc.
Well, the good thing about this, and I'll give this to you, CTO, is according to the plans and stuff that was discovered, that Warren was coordinating attacks against crypto with the SEC. But the point is not to kill it, but to control it. Again, goes back to maybe pushing this over to the Wall Street banks. CTO, what's your take on this, if you have one? And
I don't think there's anyone who hasn't identified that there is a technology advantage here. That much must be clear to everyone. Like the efficiency advantage of operating a cryptocurrency exchange versus the traditional banking system with software that's written 40, 50 years ago and requiring a lot of manual intervention in every single step. The efficiency difference is enormous, and I think that's clear to everyone. And then what to do then? Okay, one thing is to, if you can't beat it, you embrace it. So that's the whole CBDC movement. Okay, we will also issue a cryptocurrency or something like that, a digital currency of some sort. But then suddenly it's a very much head-on-head competition. And what I think a couple of years ago, crypto wasn't so big. It felt a little bit like it's mostly us nerds, nerding around here. But this got pretty big pretty fast in, hundreds of billions into the trillion. And I think there's an element of fear here that we have to push it down a little bit, because otherwise our option will never even get off the ground. There will never be any users because we're too far behind. So we have to push it down a little bit, bring out our option, and then kind of merge these ecosystems. It could be thoughts like that, or it's just like you say, Ran, it's just fear and feeling of kind of losing control over money and what people are doing. I don't believe a moment this storyline about it's for investor protection and so on. At least we haven't seen that in action, where enforcement action was actually needed, where maybe the only way to uncover the truth were subpoenas and things like that in FTX and Celsius and so on. There was nothing being done, while there was only, going after open projects where everything was already transparent on the blockchain in public white papers. And now with Paxos, who have been completely transparent what they have done since the very start. It's been on the webpage. I've been in there reading it years ago, and it's been clear. Why is that coming out now? Only it doesn't add up really.
Exactly. Well,
so I think there is some strategy behind it. Yeah, I think so.
Yep. And I just want to remind everybody, make sure you subscribe to the channels below and also hit the like and subscribe. I never asked for that, but I've been shadow banned as well. Like my friend around here, so I'm borrowing a line out of his playbook. I want to touch on one thing that really I know it should be on everybody's mind if it's not already. Is this another Black Swan event, or is this just a couple of black eyes? Ran, you're nodding your head.
Well, I want to say that one theory is maybe that they're preparing to launch a CBDC, and if they want to launch a CBDC, they want to make the new CBDC the primary currency, and to do that, you want to try and eliminate the competition. Let's call it that. In terms of whether this is a black swan, it will be a black swan if they go after Tether and if they go after Circle. If they attack all dollar-backed stablecoins, that's a black swan. Then you got to ask yourself, okay, what actually happens then? So one theory is that everyone redeems their US dollars and takes their money out of crypto, but I don't think so.
No.
I think people will try and invest as much as they can into Bitcoin because they realize that actually it's just the government taking away more of their rights. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, I remember in 2017 there was Tether FUD. And when there was Tether FUD in 2017, when people thought Tether wasn't back, the Bitcoin price started to shoot up. And that's because people disinvested from Tether and said, well, where are we going to put the money? And they put the money into Bitcoin. So
I agree. It's a safe.
I think so too. I think that will happen. I think a second thing will happen also, because I think everyone feel the same thing that we are talking about and feeling the same thing as we are here. So what will the two things happen? One is that I think exactly like you, Ran, said, I don't think people take out their money, close their laptop on crypto and never come back. I don't think so. People are here because they want to speculate or because they believe in this in some way. So I think they want to stay. And if there is no other stable solution than Bitcoin, okay, then people are going to sell their stable coins, buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin price might even go up. It has not backed up today, even though I think this was one of the maybe biggest events in a long time since FTX, actually, what happened today. But nothing really has happened to Bitcoin price, perhaps because of that effect. The second thing is that I think there might be a renewed interest in kind of back to the roots of crypto, decentralized solution. Maybe there will be another attempt on a stable, decentralized solution that actually works. More decentralized exchanges, more decentralized protocols, more back to that ethos of permissionless, which is what people actually care about. Everyone focuses, but is it decentralized and so on. What people actually want is permissionless. They don't want to ask someone to participate. They want to, be allowed to participate in the markets. And I think we might see a rebound to that. So all this stuff that the SEC and so on is doing, it might backfire in the end. It might be the event that makes people so upset that they actually go and build these things, not out of, speculative craziness, but because it's actually needed. Suddenly there is actually demand and there's actually a use case and there is real, people really need this. There's suddenly, if you're launching a product, you always think, is there a starving audience? Is there a starving market for this product who really, will run and grab it? Before there wasn't. We had USDC, we had BUSD, USDT, they all felt kind of safe. Hard to build something else because people were quite happy with what they had. If that disappears, there is a vacuum in the market and someone might build something great in that.
Okay, we've talked about Bitcoin quite a bit, and one of the things that surprised me so far this year is how ETH is underperforming Bitcoin. And I think it is getting a lot of pressure from a lot of what you guys just discussed. Maybe ETH is now feeling like a target of the SEC as well because of staking. So the big question, you guys both segued into this almost perfectly, is ETH staking decentralized or centralized when you consider the huge amount of the big players and how much they actually run here? And you guys know this chart probably very, very well as you go forward. But what's your take on whether or not ETH is a target, and does that explain the lack of performance against Bitcoin both year to date, last 5 days, the last 30 days, etc.? Bitcoin's up 15%, ETH is up 4%, for example, the last month or so. Where do you guys align on this? I'll go to you first, CTO Larsson.
Yeah, it really becomes a legal question. And again, I don't know, but I saw on Twitter that when this Kraken was announced, there were a lot of people who jumped up and said that, but hey, isn't then the Ethereum staking also, falls under this umbrella? Because you kind of take your ETH, you give it to someone else, and you get the return back. And that's kind of awfully close to some sort of security product. And of course, I would hate if that becomes the outcome. My God, that would really, try to destroy proof of stake, ban proof of stake in the US, and then we ban proof of work for energy efficiency reasons in Europe. Where does that leave us? I mean, that would be a disaster. I don't think it would happen, but I mean, look at SEC now. They're going rampage on everything. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And Ran, I know you're deep in this topic as well. And its question is, go back to the Howey test, etc. You could very easily argue, yes, ETH proof of stake is technically a security. A lot of people are on that page. What is your belief right now?
Look, I think the SEC there's a law in the States where the SEC can pretty much classify anything as a security if they need to, kind of thing. So I think it's like the SEC could do whatever they want. They have far overreaching powers, and it's a case of, unless someone goes and challenges them properly in court, which is what Brian Armstrong has actually said he's going to do, where someone needs to beat them in court in crypto. And I really hope, to be honest, I really hope this actually goes to court, and I hope that Brian Armstrong actually battles them and wins. Because I think if anybody can, they can bully Kraken, but you can't bully Brian Armstrong. He's got too much money and very big investors, etc. So
BlackRock.
I think
yeah, exactly. And
but in a way, I feel that if I can share the screen just 1 second here, in a way, Ethereum has held up reasonably well. This is ETH versus BTC, and it has held in the same consolidation range. So this is not Ethereum versus dollar, it's ETH versus BTC. So basically from May 2021, which is soon 2 years ago, and now it's kind of just been in this range. So I think the market isn't sure, what's going to happen with Ethereum. Will it really break out and become the biggest cryptocurrency, or will it not? And Bitcoin will continue to reign supreme. And the market has kind of been uncertain about that for almost 2 years. The price has been pretty flat. And it's actually back to the same levels as 2017, when around the time when I first discovered crypto in terms of Bitcoin terms.
Yeah, interesting chart as well. One of the things that actually takes me to the next thing before we come back, I want to talk about altcoins and how they are also, many of them, they're actually crushing Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that takes it back to Bitcoin dominance. Is Bitcoin dominance a thing of the past? But let's wrap up Bitcoin first, because a big story last week and the week before was the old Ordinals. It's really bloating the block size of Bitcoin. Could Ordinals kill Bitcoin? Or do they need, actually, this is more of a developer question, do they need to recode the protocol to be able to block out these heavy JPEG images that are crushing the blockchain and block size? Have you guys looked into this? And
I thought it was a great idea. I really like this idea. And I felt also it could even maybe bring the business model back to the miners, because there were these ideas, right? There's a lot of ideas. Could make that, for example, the first Satoshi in a block is more rare than the other Satoshis. Perhaps it could bring more revenue streams for the miners. I think that would be a great thing. And I felt that there's been too little innovation instead. I feel happy about this. I don't think it will destroy the protocol at all.
Ran, are you worried about ordinals? I think you might be muted. Ran, I think you're muted. Yeah.
I think that any use case for Bitcoin is a bona fide use case. If people start using it, then that's the use case. I think when Vitalik created Ethereum, I don't think in his wildest imagination did he think that pictures of cats would be dominating the blockchain. Like, I don't think that that's what he anticipated. But that's what people decided to use the blockchain for. Now, there's been many inventions in history where, they thought that they'd go one way in terms of consumer use, and they went another way. So I think we need to let the technology develop. Also, if you understand how the Ordinals technology is built, what you realize is that the Bitcoin NFT is actually more valuable or better than the Ethereum NFT, because the the NFT, the Bitcoin NFT, is actually a specific set that is created as the NFT. So it's a Satoshi on chain. It's not just the metadata on chain, which is what happens with Ethereum. It's the actual Satoshi, which is different from the other sets. And so, I mean, I think it's an amazing technology. And I don't think we should kill the experiment, to be honest. I think a use case is a use case. It may create more value for miners going forward. It may actually even solve the fee discussion at some point. So I think for now, they should definitely let it carry on. Although I think the hardcore Bitcoin maxis would probably disagree with me, right?
Yeah, they don't want it on their chain at all. They don't want to be associated with anything that is NFTs or meme-ish in any way. So it's kind of an interesting debate. Let's jump and talk about altcoins.
Just to add one more thing.
Yeah.
From this political perspective, the only thing that the politicians of the world don't hate, that is the art part of crypto. That is really the NFT. That's like the harmless thing that everyone has actually supported. So I think from a, so to say, marketing perspective of Bitcoin, I think it would be great if it's not just, speculative, something speculative money trying to take over the money from the politicians. If we could bring some art into this and, something that everyone agrees with, I think it would be great.
Well, I think if the SEC had the time, or if they could comprehend what wash sale trading is for NFTs, they'd be on it like white on rice, because that's where 60 to 80% of all NFT trades are just pumped fraudulently to scam retail investors. So I think there is a case there in many cases for some.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, it was only when I got into crypto that someone explained to me that, that's how it works in the general art market as well, for hundreds of years probably. That, you go and buy one paint, you don't go buy one painting if you're like a huge art investor. You don't go buy one painting from this new artist. You go buy 100 paintings from that one, and then you kind of take them off the market, and then you sell one, and you kind of buy it yourself, or your uncle buys it, and it's like at 100 times the price. And then suddenly the asset value of your other 99 paintings from that artist has gone through the roof. And so on and so forth. Apparently, that's how it works. I didn't know that. I thought art investors were good, genuine people who were there for the love of art. And when I said that, everyone laughed.
All right, switching gears back to AltSeason. Now, this is kind of stunning how some altcoins have absolutely crushed it over the last 90 days. You've got your Aptos and your Phantoms and your Graphs. You name it, all across the board. Many names, with the exception of some of the more traditional names, are kind of down to the right. Some of the older names or chains that are ghost chains or whatever are kind of underperforming Bitcoin. But what's your take on where we are over the last 90 days with altcoins? Is this market different, this time different? A lot of the Bitcoiners, etc., were expecting much, much stronger dominance. And now we have, like, my belief is the layer one use case, product market fit, is astounding compared to 2017. Therefore, tokens have a lot more inherent value. Ran, you first. You being the DGen master.
I think it's a function of two things. I think the first thing is, if you take the flip side of that chart, which was how quickly altcoins went down when FTX collapsed, you'll realize that it was exactly the inverse of this, where they shot down so much that obviously the recovery would have to be as aggressive. But then it's also the second thing that you said is that we've actually got real use cases for blockchains now. And I think that, as I've said before, the notion that we're only going to have that, the notion that we're even going to speak about Bitcoin dominance in the next 10 years is completely absurd, because Bitcoin was just the first use case of blockchain technology. It was the first successful experiment in blockchain technology, but there's going to be others. And I even think that Ethereum is going to be bigger than Bitcoin at some point. And so I think this notion of Bitcoin dominance, it's going to be history in a couple of years. And I think there'll be one and maybe even more blockchains that become bigger than Bitcoin. So it's just, and they're obviously altcoins, or we call them altcoins today.
Unless, of course, they can, going back to the Ordinals, and if Metcalfe's law is the thing, which I believe it is, that could bring about a network effect that could keep Bitcoin growing. So, getting back to that, but I do hear you. The path to 1 billion users is so critical for some of these layer ones. The question is which one will be first, and that will change the game. And then the market caps will be through the roof, I believe. Would you agree, Ran?
I mean, Bitcoin can't handle the transaction volume. I mean, unless you believe in Lightning Network, and we know that Lightning Network hasn't had that much adoption. So Bitcoin is like pretty much nearly at its capacity. You know what I mean? Like maybe 1 or 2 NFT experiments will work on Bitcoin, but ultimately Bitcoin just can't handle the volume. And so we're going to need other blockchains. Bitcoin can't do smart contracts. I mean, the way that this Ordinals works, it's not actually, you have to have this, you're almost looking at it through another lens. That's how the NFT on Bitcoin works. So I think we're going to have other blockchains, and there's going to be a couple of blockchains with specific use cases. Bitcoin can't fill them all. And I think, as I say, I think in 10 years, we won't even be talking about Bitcoin dominance.
Good stuff. CTO, what's your take on the 800-pound gorilla Bitcoin versus?
Yeah, so let me share my screen here. And so this is showing Bitcoin dominance with stablecoins, because Ran, you pointed out one time, let's leave them in. So let's leave them in. And I think if we zoom out here, this is all the way from 2017 until today. The altcoins versus Bitcoin has been really stable here since spring 2021, almost 2 years ago. And it has not really broken out in either direction. So everyone who is saying, Bitcoin is back, Bitcoin has really taken back the dominance and so on and so forth. Okay, but those are tiny, tiny moves here. That's not really the kind of trends we're looking for. I mean, either there is like a massive move back to that it's only Bitcoin that really survives in this industry, then we will see a move like this. We have not even started a move like that. Or the scenario that Rand describes really play out, that Bitcoin gets a little bit a thing of the past. It was the first great implementation of a cryptocurrency, of blockchain, but newer, better protocols kind of take over from there. In that case, this will break down here, and we will see it pretty clearly, I think, because you don't need to know technical analysis. You see this clearly here in the relative strength between Bitcoin versus everything else. And if it starts breaking down here, I think we will see that scenario that Rand talks about playing out. I'm pro innovation. I think that newer, better things might win, but usually it takes much longer than people think. It's people are slow to change. People don't like change. It takes much longer than everyone thinks, but I think it can happen. I don't think it's written in stone that it has to be Bitcoin forever and nothing better can ever come along, and it's like the pinnacle of human innovation. But who knows? It might not happen 2023. It might not happen 2024. Maybe it takes 10 years. Who knows? But I think we will see the trend when it's actually happening in the chart. We can react to it and we can take action rather than trying to guess when it will happen and so on, because that's very difficult.
Okay.
I know you used to host a show with Benjamin Kahn, and he's got this theory about Bitcoin dominance. CTO, can you call up the chart of Bitcoin dominance X stablecoins?
Yes, absolutely. Let me share my screen again here.
Yeah, because while you're doing that, I want to talk about one thing. We've gone around in a few circles here talking today. One is, okay, stablecoins hit the wall. That'll boost Bitcoin. Number two, the use case for altcoins is now stronger than ever before. So where is this all going to go? That's the money question, I think, for everybody here.
The whole industry is going to grow.
That's a very good question, Ran. So how does this look if we exclude the stable coins? Has Bitcoin really taken back the dominance and totally smashed the rest of the altcoins? No, it hasn't really. This is the chart of Bitcoin dominance divided by only the altcoins, so excluding the stable coins as such. And this hasn't broken out. You don't need to know any technical analysis. You can see that there's been a little resistance here that goes back to 2021, 2 years ago, and that has not broken out yet. It tried one time, last spring, but it didn't happen, came back.
Can
So
you
not
chart
yet
dominance?
is the answer.
Can you chart dominance? And the reason why I say that is I understand like human emotion when it comes to prices of individual assets, but does human emotion around the relationship between one asset to another asset also, is it also valid in charts? I don't know if you understand the question. I'm saying I understand,
I understand exactly what you mean. I mean, is it even valid to chart something like Ethereum versus BTC or something? You know, is that even a valid thing to do?
Yes.
And it wouldn't be really if no one traded that, right? I don't think so. But since people are actually trading those pairs, it is definitely relevant. A lot of the large players in crypto, they do trade against Bitcoin. They want to increase their Bitcoin holding. They don't care so much about US dollar. But then the question is, what about these aggregated ratios then? Because no one really is trading that. Is that even valid? It is questionable. It's not as confident as the charts that people are trading. So you're right. It's not as confident. But you can see the general direction. Like, where does this look to be going? And it hasn't, because sometimes it's easy to get lost in the narrative. You just hear the words. It's important to kind of go back and quantify it. Has Bitcoin really taken back the dominance today? And that we can say, no, it hasn't. It's the same dominance, excluding the stable coins, as it was in April 2021, 2 years ago. So that we can say with certainty. And then we can see if that statement changes until next week.
Can you trade dominance anyway? Like if I want to short Bitcoin dominance, can I short Bitcoin dominance somewhere? Is there an exchange that will allow me to?
It is tradable somewhere, but I don't think it's a large part of the market that trade those pairs.
Yeah, in fact, the $1 million question is, we know Ethereum and alts, very high probability they will outperform Bitcoin. It's just a heavier beast. But Bitcoin has that ace in the hole, and that is supply crunch. I had Bloomberg on the channel on Friday, and they believe there could be a Bitcoin supply crunch at the end of the year. And it goes back to something CTO, you rattled everybody. At least I got 1,000 questions from. You did a video on Friday regarding Wycoff, and your Wycoff chart pointed to Bitcoin going to 14,500 to 16,000. And it got everybody very excited, saying, CTO Larsson, brilliant chart. He says, because of Wyckoff distribution, Bitcoin's going to tank, and I'm going to be able to fill my bags at 16,000 or 14,000. So I'm going to talk about Wyckoff after you have 60 seconds to summarize what you said, maybe pop up the Wyckoff chart as to why you believe this is happening. And I see, Ran, you're smiling. But again,
exactly.
I didn't watch the video. So I want to see this.
Yeah. So we try to do this fast because we've got a hard stop today in about 18 minutes, but we'll go through this real fast and I'll counter. We also want to leave some time for the community at the end for a couple of questions for you guys.
Exactly. So in my video was something like this. And then if you're too tired to listen to what I'm saying because I have a thick Swedish accent and I talk too much, you just look at the picture and it looks like I'm saying here that Bitcoin is going to go to 14,000, what have I drawn? 14,900 or something. So many people, I think they just heard that.
Yes.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. I explained that there is a huge element of market manipulation, very skilled market manipulation. And I first explained what happened in 2021, because this drawing here, that is actually from 2021. So I won't recap it here because it gets too long, but it involves an element of tricking everyone. So you drive the price up, then you drive the price below the previous low. Then everyone think we're going lower, so they sell. Then you drive the price up and liquidate everyone. And then you drive the price up higher than the previous high. And when you do that, everyone, get their laser eyes on. They feel that we have broken out. We're going higher. It's confirmed. So they buy, they go long. What happens? They drive it down. So there is this kind of element of tricking everyone very skillfully. And the playbook is 100 years old. This is not new for crypto. This guy called Wyckoff, he was angry about this exactly 100 years ago in the stock market. And that's not going to change because it's kind of playing people's emotions. So what I did say was that if we get the scenario where we actually break below the previous lows, look here, the previous lows were here, 15,700 something. If we break just below that, I can tell you what's going to happen. The whole crypto Twitter is going to be full of people saying we're going lower. The previous lows have been broken. It's confirmed. Everyone's going to short. The last bull is going to give up and sell. And what could happen in that scenario? What could happen is that it's a huge fake. It's a huge bear trap. And they drive the price back up again. They test if there is more weak hands that they can buy, and then price goes up. And if we start seeing something like this playing out, these points here are very high confidence entries, very, very high confidence entry, because then we kind of revealed the game. And that's what I said, that this is one scenario that could happen. I'm not predicting that will happen. In fact, I don't think it will happen. My main guess is not this chart. My main guess is that we find support either at 21,300 from this level or at 18,600. So this is not my main scenario. I'm just saying that if we get a scenario like this, it's important to be aware that markets are manipulated. They're trying to trick us with all these tricks that are 100 years old. The tricks work if you're not aware of the game. Yeah. So what I tried to do in that video was to educate everyone. We're going to run out of time,
CJ. I've got to move you along here real fast because we do have a hard stop. I'm going to show a couple of very quick counterpoints to what you showed, and I'm glad that the audience now realize we're not going to 14.5, or everything is possible. We could, but it's not kind of what people picked up from your video. But let's look at a couple of things. One, my point is you can find a Wyckoff distribution. If you look at any chart, I'm going to show you a few. This is Bitcoin the last 2 weeks. It looks like a Wyckoff chart. Would you agree, CTO?
I can't really see it from there.
Okay. Well, I've got a couple more. I should be showing full screen, but the other one is, this is the Wyckoff oscillator that shows kind of how the Wyckoff distribution oscillates over time. You can see we had very, very big accumulation periods. That's the green, and distribution periods, that's the red. We haven't had a distribution period since, technically, per this chart, since June 2022. In addition, Wyckoff volume is very important to look at. This is the capitulation levels. We had the COVID, which was an anomaly situation. Massive distribution. People freaked out. They just moved to cash, which was a big mistake. That's when you run into the burning building. Then we had the capitulation events back in May, back in June, back in FTX in November. 3 big ones. But since then, the Wyckoff volume has actually been blue, which is accumulation. And in addition, this is another view, which is counter to your view, that talks about how we could be on the verge of a breakout using Wyckoff. And finally, just for the audience to know, this is also a technical Wyckoff distribution, but guess what it's for? I'm probably going to get shadow banned again. Well, you guys can read the title yourself. That is kind of an interesting one. And the final thing I will say, this is the Bitcoin order book going out. It is very, very strong. There are people ready to snipe, ready to buy at all sorts of levels. And the point is, it will be highly unlikely, unless we get a very, very bad black swan, like Ran, you mentioned, Circle hits the wall, Tether hits the wall. That could take us there. But that would drive up the Bitcoin price, because people would use their stablecoins and pump it straight into Bitcoin and then take it to their wallet to escape the storm. So you guys, Ran, what do you think of all of that we just went through?
I'm not a Wyckoff person. I'm not very much a chartist either. I'm very much in fundamentals. I use the charts to validate what I'm thinking. But I mean, I'm not one of these, I think, as you say, if you want me to find a pattern for you, I'll find it. Just tell me what you want.
I mean, if I can just summarize, the takeaway is really like this, that the emotions are not your friend in investing. If something like that will happen, the gut reaction will be to get out, while actually that's the buying opportunity. because there is an element of manipulation in the market. And it's good to be aware of that and try to kind of counter check your euphoria at the top and counter check your depression at the bottom.
Exactly. I always talk about...
And I think one reason why a lot of people heard that I said that it's going lower is that they are sidelined. So they want to hear that it's going lower. But then if the majority is sidelined, we might not go lower because, that's how the market works.
Precisely. I always talk about the emotion removal machine. That's what people need when they're investing. It's okay to be emotional outside of investing, but you have to be a machine when you're not. So we're going to take a couple of quick questions from the audience, if that's okay. And then we got to close up because one of you has an important appointment right after this.
I have a dinner.
All right. First question, which is a fun question to both of you, from Crypto Phil. If BUSD is a security, is the US dollar also a security? Think about that. If you're getting a 4% yield, Fed funds rate, treasury yield on your US dollars, and you're getting 4% from Kraken on your BUSD, can you explain to the audience what the difference is? Other than control?
I think the reason why they're saying that BUSD is a security is because you're not actually holding the dollar. You're holding an instrument which represents a dollar. And because the dollars, I think, aren't backed by dollars one-to-one, I think it's backed by a basket of assets, which inevitably can fluctuate, even be it a little bit. I think that's why they're calling it a security. I think. No one knows, but that's the one theory that there is. So, I don't think the dollar is a security.
Yeah. CTO?
I mean, in many jurisdictions, the central bank issued currency is handled differently. At least in Swedish law, there is like currency is issued by central bank. And if it's a currency not issued by central bank, it's a different kind of asset.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is from, by the way, hit the likes. Let's get to 1,000 likes. We're about 650. We've got 1,000 people, or 2,300 in the audience. This question is from Real Raid Boss CTO. Showed the Wycoff with the spring, but there is also one without the spring that could also play out, which is kind of what I showed as well. This question might be a little bit later. So do you believe, what would your probability hedge, CTO, being of the Wycoff going to your spring level or springing upwards?
Yeah, so a mistake that many beginners do, they try to predict what's going to happen into the future. It turns out that's very difficult. But it's fairly easy to kind of see what seems to be playing out and then select your scenario based on that. So the entries here in these scenarios is not really at the bottom. It's kind of a little bit afterwards when you have the answer already, which of these scenarios playing out. So I have no idea what the whales are going to do. I don't know, can't predict the future of markets, but I can react pretty fast afterwards.
Yeah, because you wait for
it's a valid question. It's correct. That can happen.
Yeah, you wait for confirmation before you execute your plan. Okay, so right now, for both of you, anybody here buying Bitcoin right now or waiting? Or just going?
My level, obviously I'm accumulating in my DCA position, but my level for like really going all in is about 20,300. And the reason for that is where the long-term trend line gets tested. So if you look at the long-term trend line, the one that came from November, I think it was. Let me just try to call it up on my screen here. I believe I hold the same view that Pantera holds, that I think we're back in a bull cycle. I know you're not supposed to say that, but I do. So if you look at it, I'm just showing my screen here. If you look at the screen, I'm just following this long-term trend line from November, and I'm just saw a breakout, and I'm kind of seeing a perfect retest. And if you look at more or less where the retest meets the line, it's about 20,300. So anywhere around that level for me is like, that's when I'm going to really start deploying capital. I do think that this period was a little bit overbought. You know, we went up from the beginning of January. I think we went up 45% on Bitcoin. And I think now we're just coming down to like some kind of median or mean reversion.
Exactly. My DCA on steroids level begins at 21K, which we haven't gotten to yet. So CTO, are you waiting? Are you
I'm still holding my position. I'm not bearish. I've not turned bearish or anything. I'm holding my position that I bought before. I'm not doing anything today. I'm just waiting. So either we go lower, find support, then I'm going to buy more there, or we go into some breakout mode, then I buy there also. So I'm bullish. Trend is up. Hoping for new great entries. So.
Speaking of
and
bullish,
I think one important thing, because we talked a lot about Gary Gensler and crypto and how he's against things. I don't think he's against Bitcoin.
No.
Based on, I watched some of his old lectures. I've studied a lot what other people have written who know him. And I don't think he's against Bitcoin. I think he might even like Bitcoin. He's against the rest of crypto. And I think it's important to get that perspective in, because we talked a lot about altcoins, stablecoins, and all that stuff. But that's really one benefit that Bitcoin has. The most powerful person in regulation probably likes it.
In fact, it was July or August 2022, and I remember distinctly, Gary Gensler said he liked Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then ever since proof of stake happened, that tune has changed a little bit. Anyway, speaking of bullish news, we have El-conquestador in the audience. And he said, at CTO, I watched your vid. It was very insightful. So it got people very excited. I think people that were not on the train, they were excited they could get on the train at a much lower price. Bill Whammer said, I wish we could keep this conversation going for a lot longer. There's so much to learn. He's very grateful. Bill is in Switzerland. Big thank you again to Ran and CTO. And from Stephan Joachim Broeckel, could you guys also share your thoughts on UFOs over North America? Could it lead to a black swan event in the market? Well, there's lots of stuff flying in the air. A lot of them are Chinese balloons, spy balloons. I think, Xi Jinping is just messing with the US, or maybe they've been doing it for years. But my question is why the US government spends nearly $1 trillion in defense and doesn't notice balloons flying overhead. But anyway, what do you guys think about that? Could a UFO cause a black swan? Interesting.
No, it's not serious. It's not serious enough. It's not serious enough. It's not serious enough.
Because we know there are UFOs. This is like going back to the 50s. Apparently, the US government has UFOs in a warehouse somewhere in Area 51 in the Nevada desert. Not far, apparently, from where Tesla apparently has a factory. I'm not sure. But CTO, what do you think about UFOs and black swans? I think you're muted. CTO, I think you're muted. There you go. Are you back? We've lost you.
Yeah. I was muted. I have no idea.
Stefan, you lost us all except so with that, everybody, there's nearly 2,500 people live. Thank you so much for being here today. Any final thoughts, you guys? It's been a great conversation and people just want more from you both. And remember, next week we're on CTO's channel, same time, same place, you guys, and the week after on Rand's channel. So we just rotate this around all the time. So Rand, I've never seen you look so peaceful.
I'm peaceful. I had a spiritual journey this weekend. I'm very peaceful. I'm going out for dinner. I'm very chilled.
Good. You're not worried about the SEC coming after you. Coming after your bags.
You and the community and everyone, much love. Thank you very much. And I guess we'll meet up again next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for all you do. Have a good night. Have a good dinner. And I'll see you all soon. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Don't forget to subscribe to their channels below. See ya.
Bye.